Now, France has called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council after rebels entered the capital of the Central African Republic. It's a former French colony. The rebel group known as Seleka is reported to be fighting running battles with government troops in the northern suburbs of Bangui. The rebels accused the president, Francois Bozizé, of breaking a January peace deal which included integrating some 2,000 rebel forces into the national army. The editor of BBC's Africa Service, Richard Hamilton, gave me the latest about what is going on in the ground.
Reports that we have suggest that the rebels are fighting at the moment with government forces, and that because the power lines have been cut, the city's in darkness, and that people are in a state of panic, and that UN forces, some non-essential staff that tried to leave the city, were prevented from leaving the airport.
Richard, the Central African Republic is not a country that gets a great deal of attention, and at least not until recently. What exactly is going on?
Well, you're right. It's been a very ignored country. It's one of the poorest and least developed nations in Africa and hence in the world. And traditionally, people don't pay it that much attention. But this problem has been brewing a long time, and it's basically a power struggle between the president and rebels, who've a loose alliance of different ethnic groups. And the president, Francois Bozizé, has fallen out with previous allies in government who've taken up with the rebels. So it's really a power struggle, and it's also made more complicated by the fact that the Lord's Resistance Army that came from Uganda have been terrorising parts of the Central African Republic as well. So it's extremely unstable. Ironically, it does actually have quite a lot of wealth in terms of gold, uranium and other minerals, but that has been very unequally shared, so perhaps that fuels the power struggle as well. And neighbouring countries are also have an interest in having a solid ally there. And also the president in the past has been wary of having a strong army, because he didn't want to be overthrown in a coup, which is one of the reasons why this army is struggling to hold its own against the rebels.
And Richard, looking at France's involvement in Mali and now in Central African Republic, people will be concerned France is getting sucked into conflicts in this continent. Where does it end?
Well, you're right. The situation in Mali is slightly different in that France is worried about the Islamist and the terrorism problem coming from the Sahel and North Africa, places like Algeria and basically groups operating in the Sahara. That's not really the same case in Central African Republic. This is sub-Saharan tropical Africa. But having said that, France still wants to maintain very strong links, commercial and military links, with its former colonial allies, and doesn't want to leave them out high and dry.
That's Richard Hamilton, BBC Africa editor.